So the first mistake that I think, or first common error that I think I see with the bench quite often is people tending not to take their time as much. Similar to the squat in a fashion, people tend to drop right into the hole and they tend to bounce out and try to work only on that concentric motion. And the same way on the bench, people tend to come down, slam it off their chest and try to bounce their way up. And they're only really getting a little bit of exercise out of that. Although the weights might be getting more and more heavier, they're just getting really good at bouncing it off their chest. So that would be my first thing, taking your time during the bench, working in a nice, eccentric, controlled manner. And this is going to strengthen your bench, it's going to build more muscle, and you're going to get better results in the long run. You're probably going to save yourself some injuries as well. The time under tension that you actually spend working increases massively as well. If you think about the majority of the time, people are dropping it down, and that's not even under control. And if you take that as a second, if you're controlling it down for 3 seconds, you're doing 3 times as much work. So that would be my first tip about improving your bench: is one, take your time. My second point, it sort of leads into this from taking your time, and the whole bouncing it off your chest issue. You see this as well. People tend to, with the bench, it seems to be a bit more of an ego lift where people want to lift as much weight as they can, because it's a very common question, was how much do you bench? But the 1 reps and 2 reps are that you do of how much you actually can bench is a product of all the work that you put in before at the higher reps. Same way you go into an exam, you don't really learn much in an exam. If you're a dental student, you do, but when you go into an exam, it's a product of what you've done previously, how much work you've done. So it's the same way with your squat, your bench, and your deadlift. If you're going for 1 rep maxes, your 1 rep maxes are all a product of the work you've previously put in. So you don't need to work at a 1 rep each time, because you're not going to be making progress. You need to work in the rep ranges where you will make progress, is the 3s, 5s, 8s, 10s. That's what's going to make you progress and ultimately give you an increased 1 rep max. So a lot of people, the people that are not specific to powerlifting, they don't tend or have the necessity to do a 1 rep max. They might use it for a marker, but improving your 3 reps, your 5 reps, your 8 reps, that's what's going to give you progress, and that's how you should measure progress. So people tend to a typical bench session for, I don't know, we'll take person A, they'll go in and they'll work up to a very, very heavy set, but it's only in those top end of sets where actually work is being done. A lot of the time it's warming up, and the total amount of volume that they do, the volume is the weight multiplied by how many reps. That will be the total volume. It can sometimes be quite low, although they might feel quite fatigued because the weight gets heavy. The actual total volume can be quite low, and that's where people can often lose a little bit of progress. So working out your total volume per session for the bench, and each week trying to increase it, because we know that to make progress, you need to increase your working volume each week. My third point is for those specifically looking at powerlifting, is a lot of the time people see things as an all or nothing sort of attitude, where in the powerlifting world, or well, I say world, I mean sort of just a small community, people tend to be all or nothing. There's no halfway in between. So people will bench all of their reps touch and go. By touch and go, I mean come down and go straight back up. And they won't improve their pause reps, but they'll switch their training to every rep pause. And there needs to be a little bit of a halfway in between. So I would say all or nothing doesn't always work, and it's not always the best option. Take your time and have a balance between the two. There's a good amount of balance between the pause reps and the working reps, and that's where you're going to see a good results. Not everything has to be done to a competition standard, because you need to work with your accessory exercises, your other work to improve those 1 rep maxes. So those would be my best tips for, or most common errors that I see on the bench. The best tip I can sort of think of right off the bench is just practice, keep practicing, but try not to go too close to failure or at the very top end. So, if you're coming in, don't try to work towards a 1 rep max each session, because it's unlikely to improve your bench. It might work for a certain period of time, and you might spend a lot of time thinking, my bench is not going anywhere. You see it quite often. People are like, I did 140 last week, I'm trying to do 145 this week, but it's gone down. They're not actually spending much time work in that zone where you can actually make some progress. So those would be the most common errors I see.